we need to talk about Enzo Maresca. Before we do that, guys, make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, all that good stuff, commenting down below about what you think about this video, what you want me to make going forward, and I'll try and respond to as many comments as possible. But let's get into it, guys. Enzo Maresca's name has been ringing out since Chelsea's 2-0 win against Everton in the Premier League. A much-needed win for Chelsea, back to winning ways after a road trip from hell where Chelsea lost against Leeds, drew against Bournemouth, and lost against Atalanta in the Champions League. And following the game, instantly, he was asked about Malo Gusto, and Maresca took it upon himself to call the build-up to the game against Everton the worst he's experienced since he's come in as Chelsea head coach. He said the 48 hours leading into that Everton game was the worst he's experienced since he's been Chelsea head coach. And it got people speculating. People are still speculating to this day. Even following Chelsea's 3-1 win in the Carabao Cup against Cardiff, Chelsea through to yet another semi-final under Enzo Maresca. People are still talking about what has got the Chelsea head coach riled up. And again, people have got their theories. People have got their notions. People are asking, is he annoyed at the fans? He quickly dispelled that in that same press conference, saying that he's very happy with the support from the Chelsea fans. And so that's led people to make a safe assumption that's an internal problem at Chelsea, a problem with his bosses, a problem with the hierarchy that run things at Stamford Bridge. In terms of breakdown of people who are above Enzo Maresca in the food chain, you have Lawrence Stewart, you have Paul Winstanley, they head up the recruitment team, they're sporting directors effectively, and you have Begdad Egbali and Todd Bowley as the owners of Chelsea Football Club. And again, if Maresca is saying that he's happy with the Chelsea fans, I think people are right to speculate that his issues are internally and the support or lack of support he's feeling from the people at Stamford Bridge that write his checks. I don't have any inside information, but from a fan's point of view, from a journalist's point of view, from an outsider's point of view, it smells like a battle for supremacy. And what I mean by that is every coach that comes into a football club in this modern era of football, they come in, unless you're Pep Guardiola, as a head coach. And there's a clear difference, there's a clear distinction. It's important that we acknowledge the distinction between a head coach and a manager. A head coach is tasked with the X's and O's, dealing with the Jims and the Joes. Whatever goes on the pitch is under your jurisdiction. That is what a head coach does on the training pitch, on the pitch, during match days, in the dressing room. That's your jurisdiction. That's what you're in charge of. You are the head coach. The clue's in the name, coach. A manager deals with a lot more than that. A manager has to deal with not only the X's and the O's and what goes on the training pitch and what happens on match day, but also have a say-so and an influence when it comes to recruitment decisions. In Arsene Wenger's case, when it came to building a new stadium at the Emirates. In Alex Ferguson's case, he was the boss of everything. And so managers, they're hard to come by in modern football, especially with the short tenures of managers or head coaches where they come in and go in because the environments are more volatile. There's more media pressure. There's more pressure in general. And we don't see many coaches being given much time. Hence why you don't see many head coaches ascending to managers. There's only a few managers in the Premier League. I mentioned one already, Pep Guardiola. And that's because of the cachet that he has. Pep Guardiola's fingerprints are on everything at Man City. He is a manager. I would say Unai Emery is a manager. He's got the keys to the kingdom at Villa Park. His fingerprints are on everything at that football club. Arne Slot, head coach. Very different, right? He deals with what goes on the pitch. He deals with the dressing room. He has to deal with the Mo Salah situation because he's a player that falls under his jurisdiction. But he's not a manager. He might have a slight input when it comes to recruitment. Maybe the recruitment team will try and facilitate him with players that suit his style of play. But ultimately, he does not sign off on the players that come in at the football club and any other kind of bureaucracy when it comes to Liverpool Football Club. And so the example I want to look at in relation to Enzo Maresca, and I'll get back to Maresca at Chelsea, is Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta started life at Arsenal as a head coach, right? Zero experience sitting in the big chair. Obviously, he was an assistant at Man City with Pep Guardiola. He worked with Enzo Maresca at Man City. Those two men know each other very, very well. Comes under the Pep Guardiola coaching tree. But when Mikel Arteta came into Arsenal in 2019, replacing Unai Emery, with no experience as a head coach or a manager. He came in as a head coach. And over time, he ascended, he accumulated power, he delivered results. And now Mikel Arteta is undoubtedly the Arsenal manager. He's the boss. And of course, he's got people he needs to answer to. Berta is his boss, ostensibly. Previously, it was Edu. But Mikel Arteta's fingerprints are everywhere, all across that football club. And you see it and you feel it. That club is now being built in his image. And so I think Enzo Maresca is assessing his situation at Chelsea. He's looking at the remit that he was given before he came in. And that remit would have been finishing the top 4. Check. Chelsea finished 4th last season. Win the Conference League, because I don't think there's been a bigger overwhelming favourite in a cup competition than Chelsea in the Conference League last season. And he did that. Check. Again, he won't get credit for it, but he delivered silverware, and it also meant that Chelsea fans can officially sing "We've won it all," which no other football club in the world can claim to have done. And then the cherry on top of the cake, after you hit those 2 objectives, qualifying for the Champions League and winning the Conference League, you go to America and you win the Club World Cup in very, very impressive fashion. No matter what the naysayers say, no matter if you want to dismiss it as a glorified preseason friendly, Enzo Maresca went out there and did a job on some of the best managers in the world, notably in the final against Luis Enrique's PSG, to win 3-0 and deliver Club World Cup glory to Chelsea, as well as a hefty, hefty prize packet, which of course will please his bosses, right? And so I think Enzo Maresca is looking at that situation and saying, I've done my job. I feel like everything you've asked me to do, I've done that and exceeded that. I qualified for the Champions League, I won the Conference League, and I gave you the Club World Cup, the inaugural 32-team Club World Cup in America that comes with a hefty prize packet that will definitely help Chelsea's financial situation. And so I think he's assessing the situation and thinks, I deserve a bit more respect than I'm getting. I know I'm the head coach. I know that I'm not going to have the final say-so in everything. But I'm starting to build this football club in my image. I've hit the targets. I'm starting to make us one of the most competitive teams in Europe on our day. I think I deserve a little bit more respect. Like Jose Mourinho said, hey, respect a former Chelsea manager that fell out with the hierarchy at Stamford Bridge. Obviously a different ownership group when he was at the football club. And so that is what I think it's purely down to, a wrestle for supremacy. The goal for Enzo Maresca is to ascend from head coach to manager. And I think this is the beginning of it. We'll see how it goes, right? Because this is the board that will not take this lying down. If they feel like they are being undermined by an employee, which again, let's have it right. Enzo Maresca, despite the fact that he's got some credit in the bank, he's an employee of Igbali and Bowley. If they feel like they're being undermined by their manager and they feel like it makes his position untenable, they will make a change. They have done it. People want to talk about how ruthless Roman Abramovich was, and he was ruthless. Don't get it twisted. I've seen Jose Mourinho win the league title for his first 2 years in the Premier League, win the League Cup and FA Cup in his 3rd season, didn't win the league, finished 2nd, and he was gone at the beginning of the following season. I saw Carlo Ancelotti win the double at Chelsea, Chelsea's first ever double in 09 and 10, and finished 2nd in his 2nd season, and he was gone after his 2nd season, after Chelsea finished 2nd. I saw Antonio Conte win the league in his 1st season at Chelsea. The 2nd season, a bit of a disaster, finished 5th, but won the FA Cup. First 2 seasons, you win the Premier League, you win the FA Cup, and you get sacked. I saw Mauricio Sarri finish 3rd, win the Europa League, and get sacked. So ruthlessness is in Chelsea's blood, but we thought there might be a change with this new ownership group. Maybe Blue Co be a little bit more considered. They inherited Thomas Tuchel, a man that delivered Champions League glory to Chelsea. And guess what they did? They sacked him. Chelsea fans were up in arms. They could not believe it. A man that lifted European silverware of Chelsea, not just European silverware, it's old biggies. It's the Champions League in 2021 with a squad that was unfancied. They were not favourites at that competition. And Thomas Tuchel came in and won that competition and was almost ascending to God status at Chelsea. Blue Co came in, saw how cantankerous Tuchel can be, how difficult he can be to work with, and said, nah, not for us. Off you go. Off you trot. So they sacked Thomas Tuchel. Brought in Graham Potter, a more passive manager, maybe a bit more of a yes man with some tactical nous. They maybe thought they could mould him into the manager or head coach that they wanted. Obviously, that didn't work. Let him go. Ruthless. Didn't even last the season. He was gone. Brought in Pochettino as the next permanent manager at Chelsea. We thought, okay, this is their man. This is their guy. In his first season, there's ups and downs, but he steadies the ship towards the end of the season, and we're starting to see clear progress at Chelsea Football Club. But towards the end of the season, Pochettino starts to be a little bit agitated, starts to call out his bosses in the media, starts to say things like, I don't know if I'll be here next season, despite the fact that his contract ran for 2 years. Guess what they did in the summer? They parted ways. So this is an ownership group that are just as ruthless as Roman Abramovich. They will not take this lying down. And if they feel like Enzo Maresca is undermining them and they feel like his position has now become untenable or becomes untenable, they will not hesitate to make a change. They've done it previously and they'll do it again. And to be honest, Chelsea fans, we're not like Arsenal fans. We're not like Liverpool fans. We're not like United fans. There are still United fans who are backing Ruben Amorim. There are still, rightly so maybe, Liverpool fans that are backing Arne Slot. When Mikel Arteta finished 8th and then 8th and then 5th, there were still Arsenal fans backing them. Those legacy clubs, they have a different mantra, a different MO when it comes to managers. They want a tenured manager in the image of a Shankly or in the image of a Ferguson or in the image of a Wenger. That's what they're used to. That's what their foundations were built on. Chelsea are a very different football club. We've seen managers come and go and success has been sustained despite who's in the dugout. I saw Roberto Di Matteo win the Champions League as Chelsea manager. I saw Avram Grant come within a penalty kick of winning the Champions League as Chelsea manager. I've seen it all. We've won it all. And so I would not be surprised to see this board make a change if Enzo Maresca's disposition continues to be that of a combative head coach who's unhappy with his board or unhappy with his bosses and effectively undermining the people that sign and write his checks. And so let's watch the situation carefully, right? This is a man in Enzo Maresca that's starting to find his voice, has got that bit of bite. And of course, he's Italian. They ain't going to take this lying down. What I will say is in these 4 or 5 days since that outburst following the Everton game, the sentiment amongst Chelsea fans is starting to change. Chelsea fans are starting to buy into Maresca. He's starting to feel like our manager. And that's very, very important because despite Maresca's successes last season, which I've outlined, Chelsea fans were a bit split. And it can't be the results, right? We said he hit his objectives. It was the personality. With Chelsea fans are used to the cult of personality, the likes of a Tuchel, of a Mourinho, of a Conte. Those men that make you feel like it's us against the world. That's what Chelsea fans, they thrive under that environment where everybody hates us and it's us and everything's against us and it's a conspiracy. And Didier Drogba said it's a disgrace. That's the fuel that Chelsea fans need when they're going to Stamford Bridge and they're taking on opposition that may be considered better than them, Barcelona or Arsenal. And that's what they need to kind of get behind a singular man. And that's what Enzo Maresca's kind of garnered over the last 3 or 4 days. The fact that he's effectively called out his bosses that the fans aren't too sure on anyway. The fact that when pushed and asked, who are you unhappy with? He said, I'm very happy with the Chelsea fans. The fact that after Chelsea beat Cardiff, and let's not get twisted, I know it was a tough game for Chelsea, it's a League One side in the League Cup. After the game, the Chelsea away fans are singing Enzo Maresca's name, serenading the manager with chants and cheers. That tells you where Chelsea fans are right now. And that tells you the feeling that Enzo Maresca is starting to garner amongst Chelsea fans. And maybe it was a flight risk. Maybe it was a risk calling out his bosses. But what he's done or what he's starting to do is get fans on board. Not all Chelsea fans. There are still some fans that aren't happy with the style of football, aren't happy with the results. They feel like Chelsea should be doing a lot better. But the tide is starting to turn. The tide is starting to turn. And so let's see. Let's see where this story goes. I don't think there's any risk of Maresca losing his job before Christmas, before the turn of the new year. Even before the end of the season, I think it'd be very unlikely for Chelsea to part ways with Enzo Maresca midway through this season. But this is a board that have shown us that they are not afraid to make tough and unpopular decisions. They did it when they sacked Thomas Tuchel. They did it when they appointed Pochettino and then sacked Pochettino, a former Spurs manager. And they did it when they hired Enzo Maresca. A manager who his biggest achievement was winning the championship with Leicester. A Leicester team, a Leicester squad that had Premier League quality in it, that were expected to win the league. And Maresca did his job and he hit his objectives. But when he was brought in as Chelsea manager, it wasn't the most popular appointment. But it's worked. And the fact that it's worked has brought Maresca credit in the bank. And the fact that he's now starting to find his voice as Chelsea manager is starting to bring him credit in the bank, not from not just his bosses, but from the Chelsea fans. And so this situation is one that we need to watch closely and carefully. There's no insight I can share in terms of will Maresca get the sack? What is he genuinely annoyed at? Who is he genuinely annoyed at? We don't have those answers. Until he tells us, we won't have those answers. I think it's pretty easy to deduce what's going on and who he's unhappy with. And it's not the fans. It's not the players. It's the people upstairs. So let's watch the situation carefully, guys. Make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing. Make sure you tell me what you want to see from me next. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to make a video every single day. But when something takes my or catches my eye, I'm going to turn on the camera. I'm going to pull up the microphone. I'm going to talk to you guys about it. So catch you next time. Peace.